Welcome to the Member Engagement Show, the podcast for association professionals, brought to you by Higher Logic. I'm your host, Kelly Whelan, and in each episode, we'll talk to guests whose expertise will help you gain new members, boost retention, and deepen member involvement, all goals that can transform your organization. I invite you to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss an episode, and visit us at higherlogic.com/podcasts to catch the best of past episodes. Now, let's start the show.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Member Engagement Show. Today, I'm joined by Aaron Novelle, Senior Product Manager at Higher Logic. Aaron has over 15 years of experience applying his in-depth knowledge and passion for technology to create cutting-edge cloud-based SaaS applications and AI-driven technology. At Higher Logic, he's been part of the development of our AI enhancements. So I'm delighted to have him on the show to talk about what we're working on, what's available now, and real-world impacts you can achieve with AI. So welcome to the show, Aaron. Can you tell listeners more about yourself and your work?
Hi, very happy to do so. So as we said, my name is Aaron. I have been with Higher Logic now, coming on to a full year. I have been in the AI space for about a decade now, really working kind of as it started to get its groundwork in a lot of different aspects in healthcare, association management, etc. I started life over in the United Kingdom as a historian, moved into product development for software before moving over to the United States about 13 years ago now.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you coming on the show to get our listeners situated in kind of what Higher Logic is working on. And I know Higher Logic just opened up the beta for our AI search assistant in the online community. So I was hoping you could talk about what that is and what it can do.
Sure, I'm really happy to. So I think a lot of people are very familiar with kind of LLMs and searching and what AI is bringing to the world. But Higher Logic's really focusing in on a specific facet of this technology rather than just kind of chasing the crowd on this. So some people may be familiar with the terminology RAG LLM, and that is a resource-augmented generation. And what that enables us to do is to utilize resources that are not commonly available on the greater web where LLMs are trained, to allow our models, our AI assistants, to give answers that are specific and nuanced to associations. A general LLM effectively is like a giant octopus that just pulls the entire internet at whatever point it's trained, put in a bottle, and then that's it. It knows everything up to a certain date. For example, one of the models we're working with at the moment knows everything up to October 2023. So if you ask it who the US president is, you're going to get a very strange answer. A RAG bot instead chooses not to look outwards but inwards. So when we install it on a tenant's site, it indexes every piece of data, every piece of content that is on that site and all the microsites as well. And then when you use the AI search assistant, it provides the answers based solely on those sources. And that's something we've actually actively worked to model as we're going along, is that the AI assistant is actually forbidden and prevented from answering questions that it has no sources for. So if you try and ask it what its favorite brand of tacos is or who Brad Pitt is, you won't find any answers unless you're one of our tenants that had a South by Southwest conference and had a post talking about tacos, and then you'll find that it's very informative. One of the great things about this as well is that it doesn't train itself, and it doesn't train a big company like Google. It doesn't train their models. So this data is entirely insulated, which means associations can feel very secure knowing that their data is safe from being utilized in a large company's training model long term. I know we've all seen the skeptics and the lawsuits that are coming out when people get caught pirating things and training models. This is kind of the opposite situation. This is like a scalpel as opposed to a hammer. And we've also built a number of tools in that enable people to utilize it in ways that their association would need. A lot of people in our world are not the decision makers for AI specifically. They might have an AI ethics committee or a board of directors that needs to make a call. And so what we've enabled with our beta program is a way to add a security group that you can then take and remove members from. So only that specific subset of your users can test any of our AI features, be it the AI assistant or anything else that's coming up in our AI ecosystem. And that way you can make sure that your decision makers have full confidence in the product before you decide to turn it on. And I know obviously I'm the product manager, I say the word product, but I would like to say that this is entirely free for all of our customers. There's no charge, there's no limits. It is going to be a product that we roll out entirely free, as well as several innovations that we're going to be bringing further down the line. We really want to bring this in as standard. Our CEO, Rob, is very much an AI evangelist. He believes that this is how the entire world is going to work. And, we are looking to bring this in as part of our core platform rather than as an add-on.
I love a lot of what you just covered, because I feel like the point you just made about it being available to all of our customers, I like that it's not this thing that you have to get separate financial approval for. Although I also appreciate that you talked about kind of making it really easy for associations to get buy-in from their board of directors or any committees that they have to get approval from, because I know the nonprofits and associations I've worked with can be a little more cautious about adopting rather new technology, just given that they really highly value the trust of their members and they don't want to do anything to jeopardize that. So I love that our customers would be able to really test this and try it out and show their board what it would look like and have parameters around it. And I know Amanda DeLuke and I recently did a webinar on AI data privacy and security. So I'm very pleased to hear as well that it's kind of a private model that's not training some kind of external LLM on members' data. So you can know that your members' data is housed in this secure way, that it's not kind of like training ChatGPT, so to speak. One of the things that I think is really exciting about this, though, also is that it allows associations to kind of continue building on the value they already provide to their members. So it makes it easier for members to see that value because they can go into the online community, ask questions, and get them answered directly, just like they would if they were to use something like ChatGPT. And I think in some ways, this helps associations compete with that broader AI, where people are starting to get used to being able to get direct answers from AI tools, but now they can go into their association's community and get really good answers based on the foundation of this expertise they already have in their communities. And I think that's going to be really important to have that pairing of that deep industry expertise with the ease of use of something that has AI built in.
Yeah, I think you've really touched on probably the number one danger of AI in the future. For those of us that have been monitoring it for a few years, there's a very real possibility of kind of knowledge degradation. I mentioned at the start, I'm a historian. There's a fun term that's being bandied around at the moment called Habsburg AI. For those that are not familiar, the Habsburgs were European monarchs all the way back. And everybody likes to joke, European monarchs marry other European monarchs, and we end up with some very strange inbreeding going on. And that's kind of what you're seeing with the broad spectrum LLMs at the moment. There's a couple of estimates that say that year over year, about 80% of new content on the internet is AI generated. And of course, as you have new models training themselves on this content, you end up with this strange Ouroboros sneaking in its own tail kind of thing, where AI are training themselves on other AI models. And, the quality of that knowledge is drastically decreasing. And so associations, obviously, as you'd mentioned, are always looking for that value proposition for their members. And in the old days, it used to be the connections, the journals, that kind of knowledge. And then, Google comes along, that knowledge is widely propagated. But now, associations have the opportunity to become these bastions of knowledge again, these repositories of safe understanding in a world that's absolutely going to need humans in the loop. Because otherwise, who else is going to tell ChatGPT that it's absolutely wrong about, a complex electronic spec or some nuance of aircraft design? And so really, that is the only way that associations are going to be able to give this information to AI in a safe and controlled fashion. If it goes out into a public space, then every large company is going to consume it. But by using something like Higher Logic's platform, you can give that data to your members in a safe way that still holds it as kind of a value add for your entire association long term.
Yeah, absolutely. And it reminds me of something that Rob said on a webinar he did where he was talking about how it's nice that it can pull all this information for you so easily, but it only knows what is already out there. It doesn't have like new thoughts. It's based on what is already on the internet. And I think a really key value that associations stand to provide then is that the conversations happening in their online communities are a source of that like new knowledge, like if a new regulation comes out, for example, and in your community members are talking about how do we apply this regulation in our field or how do we interpret this, they're solving challenges together real time and they're creating that new knowledge that an AI can't create because it's pulling just from what exists out there already.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one of the features we're really leaning into in two ways. So the first, we love this feature. I think this is really what sets apart the ask your fellow humans feature, is that you ask the AI a question in your platform. It doesn't know the answer. There's a button front and center to allow you to create a discussion post in your community. And then you're then talking to those industry experts that you just mentioned. And it forms a positive rather than a negative loop. Someone answers that question. The AI is then able to index that, which means your knowledge base has now grown. That answer for the next time it's asked is now part of your AI ecosystem. And that's really kind of a phenomenal benefit. That also, again, is insulated entirely in your community. It never steps outside of it. And so it's really, really powerful.
So building on that, I actually want to come back to how you think associations can make something like this AI search assistant really powerful. It strikes me that one of the ways to do this is to ensure you have as much of your knowledge base in your community as possible so that there's plenty of source material for the AI search assistant to pull from. And that reminded me of our bulk upload and auto tagging features. Can you talk a little bit about those?
Absolutely, yeah. And there are a number of things that we're really looking to empower our community managers with to be able to provide that kind of value. Coming in this particular version, we've got things like content weighting is a great example. So obviously individual clients have different values based on what kind of association they are. And we're going to be exposing tools to allow community managers to promote or demote content types. For example, blogs might be slightly less valuable than announcements, or discussion posts might be the most powerful thing in your community. And you're going to be able to instruct the AI not to ignore things, but to nudge it in the right direction. As well as that, obviously, as you said, the power of the AI comes from content. So the more you have on your site and the better your tagging is, the more that the AI is going to be able to read into that. We're releasing in the very near future one of our updated tools for bulk upload that will allow us to have AI generated and suggested tagging on all of these features. And one of the things we really heard from our community when we released our initial bulk upload feature is that we would really like to see it use an association's formal taxonomy. For those that aren't familiar with that term, it means that an association's built a system of tagging so that they can tag things with a correct tag rather than 18 different tags for the same thing. So our AI is going to be able to build on that, and it's going to be able to use those tags in the correct way. Obviously, for security and so that we always have human in the loop, those tags are going to be marked as an AI-generated tag. There's going to be a review step so that you can add and remove any that you like. And you can also instruct AI to remove kind of any one tag that you don't think should be replied if you have one that is supposed to only be manually added. We also did a lot of investigation. We found that tagging isn't utilized by all of our customers. And so we were looking at ways to be able to offer this value to all of our customers. And so we're also going to be launching with an improved suggested tagging feature that is going to use this. I'm going to go a little bit technical deep dive here. It's going to use vectoring and embedding, which is a kind of a way that AI builds deep relationships between documents to be able to build a suggested tagging library based on common terminology between documentation. And that's going to be really, really exciting, especially as it's going to enable us to have AI read the tags on things like images, video files, and other things that AI traditionally aren't able to get context from because they don't have anything that AI can consume. Although I will say, to drop a little tidbit, we're also looking both from an accessibility standpoint and from a AI ecosystem standpoint at building a transcription tool in so that images and videos can be transcribed. And that will enable us to have obviously more powerful indexing. And from an accessibility standpoint, it will enable us to have transcripts of all of your videos automatically generated for you. Heck, you could even do it in Spanish or Italian if you wanted. AI is an incredibly powerful tool there.
That all makes me so excited because I think back to working in an association, and I think a lot of nonprofits and associations many of them have been this like long-standing organization in their field. Like my most recent job was at an organization that has been around for almost 50 years. And we had so much content, so much valuable information from all of that time existing. And sometimes where we actually struggled was less not having enough and more in not having a way to like keep it organized or have like that information architecture of being able to say, okay, these are all of our pieces of content that are about this topic, or these are all of our other pieces of content about another topic. And this makes that so much easier because I feel like when you're looking at that, again, as an organization that's been around for 40 or 50 years, or even less, even just 10 years or 5 years, you look back at all of the stuff you have and it can feel very overwhelming to think of like, well, how am I going to get this organized if we haven't had it organized this whole time? And then as you approach AI, also, you might realize, well, how am I going to get it to work really well with AI if we don't have any architecture for the AI to pull from? And this is all designed to help people like deal with that, to help people get the information into their community and also structure it in such a way that it both makes it easier for users to use it, but also easier for AI to learn from it.
Absolutely. And we're looking to build in, with that very specific example you just gave, we're also looking to build a retroactive tool for associations that perhaps have been with Higher Logic for a decade or more. And they have this, this jungle of content that needs to be organized. And so we're going to have a retroactive tagging feature as well, that's going to enable you to go through thousands of documents in, minutes, rather than the weeks and weeks it would take you. And we really are looking to empower the community admins and the super admins to build tools that are best for their community. We don't want to fall into that trap of thinking we know best. Associations are an incredibly diverse and nuanced group, and each of them are going to need different ways of adjusting this. One of our features that we're releasing in the very near future are the AI agents, the AI search agents, and they are going to be able to take the power of the broad agent that we already have and focus it in on specific areas via an embeddable widget. So for example, you can tell it to only look within a certain community or only look at a specific library. And we've had fantastic conversations with our tenants and our clients about how we're going to be able to use that. For example, a certification agent or a journal agent, or an events agent in the future even. And we've actually added some fields to really help with that context. We've put an additional instructions field in that agent creation process. And so what that's going to be able to do, for those that are unfamiliar with AI is effectively built off a very long prompt that tells the AI exactly how we think it should be responding. And these additional instructions will be things that you can add to that prompt to tailor it to your community's needs. And it will be something that you can do ad infinitum to tweak it until it works perfectly for you. We've had fun examples, like we can tell it to talk like a pirate. We can tell it to phrase its answers in a specific language or tone, focus itself so that it's in a scientific nature, focus to look, in that case of certifications, look only at sources that would provide certification assistance, keep itself to a certain length, even translate itself into another language if you have a foreign language community. The possibilities really are near endless with this. And we really encourage our admins to go in and kind of have fun with this, see what works best for their team. And obviously that's all going to be on our brand new AI settings page that should be coming out. In fact, by the time this goes live, it probably will already be be out. So you'll be able to go in, have a look. We'll be running a few things out to make sure that everybody is aware of that. And obviously myself and my team are going to be really excited to talk to everybody about how they're using that and how we can help them use that best.
Yeah, again, I'm really excited to hear about these because I truly, as you described each of those things, I could picture use cases in my former jobs of, like, for example, we had a monthly newsletter and it would only go out via email, but sometimes there would be articles in there that people might want to reference back to. And if we had actually right before I left, they were starting to add them to a library so people could search through them. But here you could have, like, to your point about the specific agents, you could have an agent specifically set up with the newsletters where it would be like find newsletter articles or find, we also had a digest, like kind of like an online journal, and it could pull only from that journal. Or I loved your example about certification because I feel like that's one of those things where both the having a specific agent or weighting certain things. So like weighting, oh, this is an actual article from a journal or advice from someone who's in charge of the regulations versus this is just a conversation of people in the community talking about this regulation. Not that you shouldn't also read that, but here's the actual rule. Like here's the real official rule, and here's also someone like talking about it. Take that for what you will when it shows up in the results.
Yeah, I think really the possibilities are absolutely endless, and our kind of philosophy moving forward is really that there is no one size fits all here. We're designing everything to be a broad toolbox for our clients, our admins, our members to be able to utilize in the way that they feel is best for their community. And obviously, just going back to that security and regulatory impact, we do have a sample FAQ that everybody can utilize and take to their members so that they can address what will be no doubt often repeated questions and concerns. And we're always happy to help with those kind of questions because we do know that there have been some problems with AI, lawsuits going through with AI giving bad advice. And obviously, we address that immediately by having a statement at the bottom indicating that it's AI content, indicating that it can make mistakes. And heck, you could even have an additional instruction indicating that if you had specific keywords, that the AI should prompt to tell it that it's not confident about those keywords. If you are a regulatory or a legal body, that's the kind of power that we're looking to bring to that group. And we're also looking to expand it, right? One of the things that Rob's talked about that we're bringing in the next quarter or two is going to be external spidering, so that if you have another website or a selection of other websites, you're going to be able to pull in that external content to the AI ecosystem. And I know that's a word I've used a few times, and I really want to kind of end my soapbox on that is really we're not looking to build a tool. We're looking to build an entire ecosystem that you can utilize to best serve your needs, be it searching, be it event management, admin management, member support. These are all things that, we're looking at building in the next year to really take the Higher Logic platform into the next decade, bring it completely into the future, and really hopefully build an experience that everybody is going to be benefiting from.
I love that you, as you said, wrapped up your soapbox with that because I think it's so powerful when you have systems that work together. Like even as you shared the example of having that external spidering, immediately I'm thinking like you have an LMS where you have learning, like not a knowledge base of educational content that you could then have the AI looking at that as well. Or if you already have a library built for example, your journal, that it could then go to that. Again, I think it's helpful if that's in the community, but if you're not wanting to put it in the community, then you have that option to pull things in. And I just think the more systems are connected, the better able associations are to kind of provide a personalized member experience, to provide that ongoing value that their members need and really give them exactly what they're looking for when they're looking for something.
100%.
I feel like we actually covered, I was going to ask you about some of the things that are coming from Higher Logic, but I think you've talked about a lot of them. Is there anything that we haven't covered yet that you wanted to share with our listeners?
I guess I'll throw in a couple of like little fun ones.
Sneak peeks.
Yeah, sneak peeks that don't have, for those people sitting there with pen and paper at the moment, don't yet have an assigned
Release
quarter.
date.
So we are looking at bringing this widget to the external platforms as well, so that you'll be able to take this Higher Logic AI widget and put it on a third-party website. I know we've done that with a few other widgets. We are looking at not only the kind of content weighting, but Rob in a previous webinar had talked about authority levels. That's something that's going to be really exciting, where we're going to be able to bring different types of posters, and different sources are going to have different authority levels. If you are a peer-reviewed journal, you're going to be 128. If you're a staff member, 64, etc., so that way you're giving the AI more tools to know. We are going to be exposing, we already have, but we're going to be exposing a chronology bias for the AI. It reminded me when you were talking about 50 years of content, we actually already have a chronology bias built in so that it looks for the most recent reliable source, which is really important. For example, let's give a personal example. We have the same conference every year. We have Superforum. It wouldn't do us any value at all if you asked it a question about Superforum and it talked about Superforum 2018. So it always looks for the most relevant recent source at the moment. But we know some organizations may prefer to tone that down so that they can look at more historical sources. Outside of that, a lot coming. We're really looking at kind of where the pulse of AI is. So we're being very agile, kind of reacting to how feedback is. So we're not setting ourselves in stone for the next 2 years. And I guess I'll close by just really encouraging people to take advantage of this. We will be able to really easily have this enabled for you. All you'll have to do is go to the AI settings page in your administration panel and just agree to a small terms and conditions. All it is a beta agreement, just letting you know that you are going to be turning on AI, to make sure that you are aware that it is AI, and to be aware that at any point we may disable a beta feature without warning, because anything that is beta is obviously subject to change. And then you can also, in the AI settings page, enable and disable each feature separately. So it's not a one and done. You can set up AI search, bulk upload, and any of our other features that are coming in the future individually, so that you can kind of tailor it to your community's needs.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show to talk about AI Search Assistant and all the other enhancements coming from Higher Logic. I really appreciate your time, and I appreciate that you walked folks through how they can access it. If there's a page that I can link to, I will put that in the show notes for our listeners, so that you can find this easily. But thank you again, Aaron.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for everybody.